Okay, here's my question. Do you ever feel like the Instagram algorithm is out to get you? Like one of those Halloween scaries, right? Like it's really out to get you and you don't know what to do about it. Well, the thing is, you're not alone, right? I feel that way sometimes. And I want to tell you, though, that it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm going to be sharing the 3 strategies that have actually helped me grow on Instagram without hating the algorithm, without worrying about it. And it made social media feel more like a breeze. And I think that's how we all want to make it feel, right? Like that it's not a chore, that it's not hard, that the effort that we're putting in is actually giving some return. So I'm going to talk about what I used to do and what I do now, because I want you to basically get better at using social media and feel like it's easier, even though you're not an expert in marketing or social media or anything like that. Cool? So let's get to it. Now I'm going to share my screen because I do have some things that I want to tell you. So 1 second. There we go. Perfect. All right. The thing is, marketing and social media didn't always feel like a breeze to me. And here's the thing, I didn't actually start out as a marketer. I was a computer engineer and I got into social media when I actually started my network marketing business. And so over the years, after I actually switched to my career being social media and offering social media services to businesses, I've been lucky to have worked with over 10, like 70 business owners in various industries and even regulated one. I've worked with people in the cannabis industry and like healthcare. So you have to be very careful what you say and on Instagram. And so I've done that hard work too. But together, like through all my clients, we've reached over 4 million people through social media. So really, it's a big opportunity. Social media is huge if you know how to leverage it correctly and make it work for you, right? And here's the thing, I'm a business owner just like you. I, in fact, sorry, okay, there we go. I run my business as a solopreneur. I don't have a team. I don't have an assistant. And that's currently how I run my business. I manage my own social media. And I post about 3 to 5 times on average a week. I don't post every day, but I am active in some way, somewhere, right? And if I don't want to be, I don't do it. But again, it wasn't always this way. I've learned that I need to take a break every now and then off of social media routinely. And I try to do it once a month, actually. And it ranges from a few days to a week. But again, it wasn't always that way. So I used to think that you had to post every day. I used to think that I had to come up with something new every day, like a new piece of content, a new reel, a new idea, new messaging, new everything, right? And I thought that likes and comments meant my business was growing. And so I would spend a majority of time thinking, what do I post today? Like I go look for a picture, write some stuff about how I was feeling based on that picture, and then hit post. That's how it used to be. And you can see from this grid, before Reels actually became huge, that I used to post a lot of photos of my family and things like that, and quotes. Quotes was a huge thing. And I used to take even Pinterest quotes and like reuse them, which is a big no-no right now, of course. And then I would add something inspirational regarding what I was selling related to my business in the caption, and then think, oh, people are definitely going to like this. They're going to comment and I'm going to get business, right? And here's the thing. They did like my pictures that I posted, but the comments were about my picture. They had nothing to do with what I was saying in the caption. And no one was asking me what I wanted them to ask, which was like, hey, can you help me? Can I work with you? Like things like that. All right. So basically posting felt like it was going nowhere and social media was taking over my life. And I was thinking more along the lines of a lifestyle influencer than a business owner. And this went on for a few years, like 2 to 3 years, where I felt like just because I was posting every day consistently, that it was going to get me business. But here's the thing. Social media can work for your business, but you have to approach it like a business owner with a splash of content creator vibes. And what I mean by that is basically, as a business owner, we have to know our bottom line. It is to grow our business and make money. But in order to get that, we have to ditch the perfectionism, the aesthetic feed, the perfect pictures, things like that, and experiment and really explore intentionally and double down on what works to move the needle for our business. And that also doesn't mean that you're only going to tell people to buy, sign up, or contact you. That's not what I mean either. You have to serve your audience with value. You have to not make yourself look good, but you have to make them look good, make them feel better about what they're doing, make them feel good about what they're saying, doing, and build connections with your audience. And you make it easy for them. If you do that, you make it easy for them to say, here, take my money. This is exactly what I need. And so that's what we want to get to. So it all turned around when I started doing a few things, right? I became very, very intentional with the stuff I was posting. Like I stopped thinking like a lifestyle influencer and wanting to have pretty pictures and videos and all that. So I stopped thinking like an Instagrammer, a TikToker, a lifestyle influencer to I'm a business owner. I need to leverage social media for business. I need to delete all the non-essential things, right? Non-essential like tasks that I need to do. And when I think about creating content and apply that same mindset to helping my clients, right? And that's when I started seeing people reaching out for my services. That's when people were asking what I offer. That's when peers were wanting to actually work with me and collaborate with me and partner with me on doing things together. And I've evolved over when I started like 7 years ago. I don't post as much, like I said. I don't feel guilty, and I enjoy the process of marketing. So again, I want to talk about 3 things that you can do from now on that can really set your marketing up to be algorithm proof, to be more sustainable for you in the long run. And so you can find the joy in posting. But first, I do want to bring up the algorithm. Okay. I do want to talk about it because there are questions, and I'm sure you have that. It's like, what is it? What does it want? Like, how can I make it happy? Right. And honestly, it's been a roller coaster ride because there's a lot of noise out there. And, there's always people talking, business owners, content creators. They're always feeling like their posts are getting less visibility now and they're getting less reach. They aren't able to reach even their followers. Forget non-followers. They're not even able to reach their followers. And they feel like because with all the updates that the algorithm is not pushing their content out. And it can be frustrating to hear these things and keep up and, do what you need to do and post and all that and market your business because you're hearing all these updates. So what do you believe? And here's the thing. It's not your fault, right? It's really the noise. And that this has changed, that has changed. Like hashtags matter, they don't matter. Use 5 hashtags, use 10 hashtags, do carousels, don't do reels. It's the new thing, this, that. And so really you're being pushed with so much noise that, it's hard. And I pity all of us really because social media is very noisy right now. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, Instagram wants to keep people on their platform. They want to know what you're interested in. They want to know what I'm interested in, what the next person is interested in. Basically, every user on their platform, it's their job to figure out what they want to see. And your job as a business owner is to find out what your people, your audience is interested in. And you want to create more of that type of content so that Instagram can show your content to your followers, but also other people who might be interested in that topic. Now, I'm not saying you have to master Instagram or even love it, but I think you should at least feel good most of the time and effort you're putting into posting, right? I'm sure you'll agree with that. Okay, so let's get to it. Here's the first strategy that I started implementing in order to make social media work for me and feel easier. I got more focused on what I was putting out, like the content that I was putting out, not being all over the place, and more focused on posting more evergreen content. And what I mean by this is I picked a few right topics to talk about, and right is different for everybody. Right just means like, what is your, what do you want to focus on that's in alignment with what you want to offer, your expertise and what you know at this time, and what you need to do to make money, and then what your audience actually wants and needs, right? So I came up with 3 to 5 topics that I consistently talk about on my account, and that's related to the problems that my target market has. And it really has to be about solving their problems and structuring that within these 3 to 5 pillars, as I call them, content pillars. And the more focused I got with the content, it actually became easier for me to establish my brand and grow and attract people who are actually coming into my DMs and asking me more about what I offer and asking more questions and curious, right? And, that focus was so important. And I wasn't that way. I was talking about my family. I was talking about things I love to eat. I was talking about my business. I was talking about like random things. Like, it's okay every now and then, I feel, to talk about other things, but the algorithm, the platforms will get confused if you are wider and more general and more like mass producing content versus focused, because they're trying to, again, find the most relevant information to push to someone, right, who's using their platform. So why do I create evergreen content? And if you're not familiar with the term evergreen, it just means that it's content that is not timely, meaning it can last, like people are looking for the answers to these things forever, right? It never goes out of interest, right? And it remains consistently interesting over time. And so when I create evergreen content, it allows me to create content that I like to talk about because, that is my expertise and that is my specialty. But it also allows me to create content that my audience wants, because I know there's always going to be someone looking for an answer to that topic. And it also allows me to start creating a content bank. And what I mean by this is that, let's say you hire a virtual assistant or a social media manager down the road, you'll have this bank of like topics that they can keep reusing, content that they can keep reusing and posting for you without having to ask you again, hey, can you make this for me? Can you create this for me? They don't have to keep asking you. And then it doesn't take time away from your business and you running your business, right? So evergreen content is great for creating a content bank. Now, here on a high level, what I recommend the buckets to be for evergreen content. And again, evergreen content, they're topics that remain consistent over a long period of time. So the buckets are FAQ. Like FAQ are like questions that, people are constantly Googling, right? Like when I'm looking for, let's say, Halloween costumes for my toddler, like every year, I know that people will be searching that same thing, right? Like that's what they put in Google, and then they get like a list of stuff that's relevant to that, right? So I can keep bringing that back every year. So let's say you create a fun Halloween content piece, right, for your product this year. And then next year you can use that same thing But you can even update like the products that you offer and some new products that you have. But let's say there's a fan favorite that you keep producing again and again. You can show that same piece of content again and it will do well, right? So that's what I mean by like, what are those common FAQs that people keep coming and asking you, and use those topics. And then you can use like Google, the results that come up on Google when you search for these FAQs. You can use those results as like headlines and hooks in your content. And then think about questions that customers keep repeatedly asking you. Answer those same FAQs, right? So that's what I talk about when that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the FAQ evergreen bucket. Then we have the expertise bucket. These are like your unique approaches to doing things, your processes, your strategies, your frameworks. These are things that probably you change over time, maybe, every few years or whatever, but I don't think that it's something that goes away, right? Like these are things that you've established over time and that you keep using again and again that work for your clients, your customers. So share that. That's what expertise is. Then your values and your story, right? So your story, like where did you come from? Like how did you start your business? Your team, your experiences, relatable aspects you have with your target market, what brands you stand for, what your brand stands for, what your brand doesn't stand for. This is how you get alignment with the right people, because not everybody is for you, right? So when you talk about these things, you attract the right people. And then finally, your primary offer evergreen bucket. These are things like, what's the benefit of using your product? What's the benefit of using your service? Tutorials. You can do transformations, case studies. You can include testimonials here and user-generated content. So these are all like different types of things and content that you can put under each of these buckets, and you can use again and again and again. Now, I just want to bring up like timely content too, not just evergreen, and there's a place for timely content. And what I mean by timely and topical content is basically topics that are based on trends. And you do want to do them every now and then so you can stay relevant and you can talk about interesting things, like things happening in the world, industry news, things like that will grab mass attention because it is so timely and it is interesting to talk about, but it can be hard to keep up with. So if a majority of your content is actually evergreen, it becomes easier. And I recommend about 90% of your content be evergreen and 10% be more topical, trending content. Because remember, our goal as business owners is to reduce the time we spend creating content, editing content, and managing it, right? So evergreen content allows you to not burn out in that whole process. And when I was doing it earlier, I used to just talk about things that came up, like on the spot type of thing. And that's why I felt like I couldn't keep up. It's because I couldn't keep up. It's like I had to come up with something interesting to say about what's happening, or, something that happened recently. And it's just a lot. It's a lot of like just drain from your brain, and it was too much. So I had to make a decision to keep repeating old content in different ways and things like that. So that's what's cool about evergreen content, is that when we have that content bank of evergreen content, we can actually do so many things with it. We can 3R our content, and that's what I like to call it. And this is my method to actually save time, being busy, and I'm sure you are too, like we keep saying, but this is how I like to use my evergreen content bank, right? I reuse my best performing content. I refresh content that maybe didn't strike a chord the first time, or like I expected it to, but I want to like try it again and see if I can make it better. And then I also repurpose content to experiment, like with different formats or with using different clips or pictures or whatever it is. And so reusing content like same exact way it was before is of course the least time consuming. Repurposing may take a little bit more time. But the point is you can reimagine that content and you can recycle that content, right? And I want to show you an example, right? This person took a carousel, right? And she was sharing like a what to wear, with this, the jeans, I believe, and styling the outfit. So she shared how to style it in a carousel. You can see this in Instagram carousel. And then she actually created a reel, which was the exact same content, but just shown in a little different way, right? She used the text like this and she showed it. And then she had some movement where she was like showing the outfit. And what's interesting is that when I saw this, I was like, oh, she posted the carousel like one day. And then just 3 days later, she posted the exact same content, but showing it a different way. And like she was getting a lot of like comments regarding what she was promoting. She was promoting a membership. And it was pretty cool that I noticed it because I noticed these things sometimes, but not everybody does. Like that's my job to like kind of find these things. But nobody was saying, oh my God, you're so bad for sharing this information twice. You're over promoting. Like I didn't think that at all because it caught my attention and I paid attention in 2 different times and ways. And maybe one time I would have seen it. And maybe the another time I wouldn't have seen it. Right. So it didn't feel weird. So that's what's cool about Evergreen content. And she can literally use this anytime. Like I don't see this going out of style, right? And that's what's cool. So that was strategy 1. I use more evergreen content versus just like in the moment type of content. And so if you're not doing that, I highly recommend incorporating more evergreen content. Strategy 2. And that's really making social media more fun and enjoyable. This is one of my biggest things. I don't know why people make it seem bad to engage with people on social media. I mean, people come on social media to be entertained, to, just get some inspiration, to get opinions, things like that. Yes, there's the bad side of social media, but it can be really good too. And so when I started engaging with people to actually learn about my audience, learn about just humans behavior, and build relationships, it made it so much more enjoyable. So, with all like having like the likes and comments on my post, yeah, it's great, but prioritizing that like relationship building and, the connections is actually what resulted in the numbers that I dream of. And the numbers I dream of are money in the bank, money in the bank to grow my business and to help my family. Like that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to make our dreams come true on the back end, but we can do it in a very ethical, very, human nature type of way by actually connecting with other humans and being like genuine about it, right? And so before I used to want to go viral. I wanted more comments. I wanted more views and things like that. And I would get excited about those things, but I don't care anymore about those things. Really, to be honest, I don't care. My intention changed when I was like, I want to have conversations in my DMs. I want people to reach out to me, even if they're not like engaging on my posts like directly and showing comments. I don't mind if they, hit my stories and want to be off of that public, feed and talk to me. And that happens a lot. Most of my business actually happens, and most of my clients come to me and we, connect and we end up working together from my DMs. And you can go check out my engagement. It is not that high, but I am successfully getting clients and all of that. So I think that's the missing connection that turns people away. Engagement has become this thing that people crave now, saying that I have tons of comments, look at it, I have tons of likes. And then they blame the algorithm when they don't see that all of a sudden. So it's pretty sad what it's come to. But when you take that away and you start actually wanting to interact with humans and think of it that way, it becomes much better. And I'll tell you why. But anyways, I wanted to say the benefits is that it helps you build that credibility. But the last thing is that it makes you feel much better, and it makes selling feel easier when you have that connection. And selling feels more salesy when you aren't having those conversations and building those relationships. So I think that's what's most important, right? And I wanted to show this. I wanted to show this piece of data because, it's important. When people build connections, and they come to social media, they come and they feel something with a brand, right? And the more transactional it is, the less they feel connected to a brand. And when they do feel connected, and brands can prioritize customer relationships, they're more likely to buy you over a competitor. They're more likely to talk about you over someone else. They're more likely to recommend you without directly recommend you. And I want to tell you a story about a recent client that I got. I was recommended to him by someone who sees my content, but she's never interacted with my content. And she's we're connected on Facebook and Instagram, but we don't chat that much. I've never worked with her, but she recommended me to someone else because she loved what I posted. She loved what I had to offer. And that person ended up being my client. So you see how that relationship and that connection is very important, right? Despite what the numbers, public numbers and vanity metrics say. So how can we connect more with our audience, but still keep our business goals in mind, right? And I honestly believe that if you set up some simple engagement practices, which is what I do, it doesn't have to feel boring or tedious, like the process of engaging on social media. Because I know you've probably heard, go engage with like a popular hashtag in your, community or whatever, and then like comment on their posts. It doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to go to random hashtags. You can be very, very intentional about who you talk to. Like it can be peers in your industry. It can be just genuinely people who you find inspiring and you follow, and other people on your they can be your clients too. And it doesn't have to be so that you can get clients, but it can actually be like, hey, I'm supporting this person and I'm giving value to their audience too. So just if you think of it that way, it just doesn't become hard. It becomes like if you were to go out in a party and you start talking to people, right? It can be like dating. It can be like when you go out again to meet friends and new friends, make new friends. It can be fun, right? So let's talk about some of the practices that I have actually that I encourage you to think about and maybe try out yourself. So here's a weekly practice that you can do. And you can use this to learn about your audience, because the more we know and the more they respond to us, we can create offers for them that actually make sense, right? And we can use the questions they ask. We can use the words they ask in our content as well to make it more relatable, empathetic, things like that. So what you can do is share your perspective and ask what your audience thinks, right? Like people love giving their opinion. They love it. And, they love hearing themselves talk too, right? So encourage that conversation. If you want them to respond, you can say, tell me in the comments, right? So you can do that. And then you can use interactive polls and stories. I do this every now and then too. I don't always do it, but I do once a week, I think at least. And then you find out more about what people are thinking, right? So you can list options. You can ask an open-ended question. You can do an ask me anything at the beginning of the week. So, you can answer those things and you can use that as content for future. And then another way you can do is make sure that you have a call to action to respond to your question. So if you have a post in your feed where you're wanting to know something from your audience, then make sure that it's very clear and very easy for them to respond. So make it would you choose A or B? Which option would you choose? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Tell me in the comments. Make it easy for them to answer, right? Without having them to think too much, right? And here's the thing I do want you to remember though, not everybody will be comfortable answering at the beginning, especially with, let's say, your first question or interactive thing that you do. But establishing this as a practice. So if you do this once a week, then you're showing that you care about what they think. And you should, because it may reveal things you never thought and give you ideas for your next product or service too. So if you make this a practice, they'll get used to like, hey, like Prati posts this every week, then maybe one day I'll feel comfortable to answer, right? So start doing it and then you'll see what happens. And then I have this daily practice. And this is most fun because then I get to actually, again, stay on top of mine, but also just support other people. And this is how I genuinely feel good about what I'm doing when I'm on social versus scrolling. And by the way, it's okay to go and scroll, but I would time block it. But this is not what I call scrolling. This is actual engaging. It's an activity that I do. And this is what I recommend to my clients, and this is what I do. So it's called the 10-3 method. I reply to DMs in the latest comments of my post, and then I go give value somewhere else. Like whether it's like, hey, thanks for sharing this. This really helped me, especially this part where you said that, you can say something like that. I don't usually say like, ooh, love this, or, respond in a way that's like very generic and vanilla, because then it doesn't help that other person, right? And again, I'm not doing this to expect anything back, but I want to build a relationship with this person. I'm not doing it to someone I don't like. So that's not what I'm saying at all. And then I do this for 10 minutes, and then I do this 3 times a day. And this is what again, I practice every day, right? The same thing. And again, the accounts that I suggest you engage with are a mix of peers, potential clients, just people who are genuinely the people that you like and want to develop a relationship with because of their values and their vibe. Just show up as a fan. I mean, is it hard to do that these days? No, it's not. It's very easy. And social media makes it much easier. And so what I recommend is like doing a little research, putting down a list of like 10 people, and you can cycle through this list every week and just show them some love, engage with them. And who knows, you could end up doing future collabs and partnerships, and they may even recommend you to other people, which is, again, what happened to me with my previous client. So it's really cool what this can do. But I will say time block this into your calendar and actually put it like engagement time, like, or something, right? Like engage, like put it as a thing in your calendar. And what I recommend is apply this habit into your daily routine. Like maybe it's the same time you check emails. For me, it's usually right after I drop off my kids at school. I sit in my car for 10 minutes and I do this. Literally, that's what I do. Because then I'm done in the morning. Then I figure out another time in the afternoon. It may be sitting in the car pickup line for my kids. And then maybe in the evening when they're in their activities, I can see, like, do the same thing before they're out from their activity, right? So establish it with another thing that's already happening in your life, and make it so that it's just easy for you to do. But time block it for sure. So hi, Orange Peel Finds. I don't know who that is, but nobody comments on your posts. I sell fun, cool things. Looking at big brands, no one really comments. I feel you must comment on other people's posts, and hundreds of people end up liking your reply. Yeah, that I've seen that happen too, where I feel like where I've commented on someone's post and then a bunch of people like my post or like my comment or whatever. So when I see that nobody's commenting on my posts, again, that happens to me too. Like, it still happens to me. And that just tells me that maybe they didn't feel comfortable answering. Maybe, some people just don't have time to go and comment. Like, that's just how it is. Like, people are on these social platforms if something really compelled them to answer, like controversial topics, something that inspired them. So if that's not happening at all for you, then I would just think about, hey, maybe there's another way I can ask it, or maybe there's another way I can share this type of content. So that's why that's why like I love the repurposing thing, is that if something didn't strike a chord, like don't give up on it. Try a different way of like showing that content or asking, and then maybe the feed versus the stories. Because again, I get a lot of comments on stories and like replies and DMs. So that I feel is much more better for ROI, return on investment for me. So I'm actually putting more effort these days on stories as well when I'm not posting on the feed. So that's something you can think about, and hope that helped. Okay. So again, remember at the beginning when I said why engaging is important, because then this conversation to sell anything becomes much easier because you've established that trust with your audience. And when my content and interaction showed that I cared, I didn't have to force anyone to buy anything. They will ask for whatever I have to give them. In fact, last week, I posted some details about an offer I had in my stories. And it was a fairly new offer. And I just thought, like, created it this summer, and I'm not talking about it at all that much. But someone reached out and said, hey, tell me more about this. Like, I want to work with you, and I think this is perfect. And now they booked, a session with me. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that the more you engage with people, even not directly on comments, but just like have that idea to nurture relationships first versus the directly selling, it becomes much easier. So tell me in the comments on a scale of 1 to 10, or in the chat, like how comfortable do you feel selling and promoting your offers on social media? I'm genuinely curious. Like, do you feel comfortable, or does it feel ick? 1 being icky, super icky, 10 being very comfortable, right? So let me know in the comments. Okay, now on to strategy 3, the final strategy, which actually is something that has really also helped make social media feel more easy to do and less algorithm centered, is when I stopped relying on my gut on whether things are working, but actually looked at numbers. I saw that I was actually doing well, but I could do better, of course. But looking at data on social media is the same as like if I were to look at a revenue and profits at the end of the year for my business. It's the same thing. You don't just do a gut check on that stuff. You actually look at it, right? And say, yeah, I did really good this year. We did better. We did 10% better. We did whatever. Social media metrics are the same way. They deserve the same attention, right? But I get it. It can be hard to figure out what to do. So that's why I'm here. But looking at this data will allow you to focus on a smaller set of data points. So I'll tell you what those smaller set is. And then it also allows you to quickly double down on what's working, right? And allows you to also adjust. Then you'll know it's like, hey, maybe I need to do more of this and less of this and all that kind of stuff. Maybe I should post more of this type of content on this topic versus this, like things like that, right? And depending on the platforms that you're on and your goals, the numbers and the data that you track could look different. But here are the metrics that matter on Instagram when you look at each type of goal that you're trying to meet. So if you're trying to get your name out there and increase that brand awareness, of course, follows, reach, tags, things like that you can look at. But shares, and Instagram has called this out. They said that they look at sends per reach, which is basically shares. Like IG, Instagram loves shares, because what does that mean? More people are, looking at that content. There's more people staying on the app itself. That's what they want. The more they can send ads through stories, the more they can like target people for certain topics, right? So shares is a huge thing right now. But it shouldn't be your only metric that you track. But these are my top ones that I look at. And depending again on the type of content I create, it may be different things. When you're looking at building trust or engagement or nurturing relationships, and looking at what people find valuable, saves are great. Of course, comments, if you can look at the comments and what people are saying, like social sentiment, like what is the actual comment, and you can track that, that's great. Tags, when people say, hey, like, who'd you recommend, or drop the name of someone who would love this product, and they're tagging someone else, right? Like they're tagging a brand, they're tagging you. That's amazing. That means people trust you to recommend you to other people, right? And then watch time right now is huge too. So the longer people are watching your reel and your videos, the more they're into it and the more they want to know. And then when you're looking at sales and boosting conversions, you want to look at like, hey, how many people are going to your website from Instagram, your DMs. DMs is huge for me because that's where, again, I'm getting most of my clients. You can look at subscribes to your broadcast channel if you have one, product link clicks if you have a shop. And of course, sales. Ultimately, you want to know how much like you're getting from Instagram, like when people are coming from here, right? So these are the metrics that matter for Instagram for each of these types of goals. And then what I also get is that, I get the question of like, hey, how often should I look at this data? So here's my guideline for what you can follow. I always look monthly at the end of the month. I go into my platform where I manage my content, and I'll show you what it is next. It's basically monthly. I always look for trends. So as long as I haven't been changing my strategy and like jumping around everywhere, at the end of the month, I can probably tell like what pieces of content are looking good for like, certain things, right? Like, ooh, people seem to like this series, let's say. So series are great for doing and finding patterns and just keeping people interested. So I've noticed that my series, How I Make Social Media Feel Like a Breeze, right now that I'm doing is doing well. And it's usually a reel that I post. And I'm going to keep doing that because it looks like it's doing well. So I found that as like something that I found that monthly, that when you find trends, you can start to see those patterns. So notice that. And then after 90 days, 3 months, I'm able to set new benchmarks and decide if I need to adjust strategy. So I wouldn't change things unless it's been about like 90 days, because that really is, I feel like, a good time to see if something is working or not. 2 weeks is not going to tell you anything. 30 days is not going to tell you anything fully. It could, but I would just keep an eye on it. I wouldn't change anything. So 90 days, set new benchmarks and decide like, hey, what are you going to try to achieve in the next 3 months, right? And then I would only look at metrics daily if I'm running a campaign. Like there might be an issue, for example, with the piece of content saying something wrong, and then people are not going to my website. So I'm like, what's going on? Oh, I need to fix this typo that I had or this link that I had. And so it helps you like detect those conversion issues. So that's the only time I would check daily if I'm running a campaign or promoting like something. Otherwise, I'm usually 90 days is like when I decide to change something or change a strategy. Okay. Orange Peel Finds. I don't know what your name is, so if you want to type your name, that'd be great, because I feel weird saying Orange Peel Finds, but it's okay if you don't want to. I'd love to know your thoughts on apps like Path, Social, or Upgrow. You get a lot of low-quality followers. We deem them bots, but they're really accounts that aren't very good. Okay, so I haven't heard of these, but I'm guessing that Anita. Okay, so are these things that actually they say they get real people to like comment on your posts? Is that what these apps are? Because I would probably not use anything like that. I just don't recommend them because I don't trust anyone saying I'm going to get you the right followers when it should be my job to attract the right followers, honestly. Yeah, they fetch you followers. I would not recommend using them, to be honest. I have nothing else to say about that. Just because, again, as business owners, it's our job to attract the right market and attract the right people. So I don't want to just hype up my numbers based on what someone else said that they're fetching the right followers. But I have not worked with these apps, so I can't say like they're bad, but I would not do it myself. So what you notice is that for every 10 low quality follower account, there's a couple good ones. People are more prone in following brands with thousands of followers. That, yeah, it is true. It is still a whole vanity metric based industry. I agree. I don't believe that everyone is like that. The ones who are truly going to be your fans and the right people who, like, again, think about mass, the general mass versus like the quality, the really high quality people. It's going to be a smaller number, right? And I think that if you want to attract those high quality people, you as a business owner need to figure out how to qualify them in the best way, right? And I don't know if you're a product based business. It looks like it, I think, but you can ask me more questions and I can give you, based on what your product is, like some ideas. But when you say there's no such thing as organic growth anymore, I disagree with that statement, just because if you again are looking at that numbers thing, then I consider my organic growth is happening because I'm naturally getting more conversations in DMs and stuff, and that is still organic. People aren't able to see how many DMs I get, but I consider that very much organic growth, right? And so maybe Instagram is not the right platform. Maybe you can try something else. I'm not sure, but yeah. But those 2 good followers wouldn't have found me without the shitty 8 shit ones. Yeah, that's interesting. That's why I don't know anything about Path Social or Upgrow and how that works, so I can't comment on that. But I hope like what I said kind of encouraged you to maybe just think about maybe the types of content you're creating and maybe just reimagining things. But if you give me an idea of what you do, then I can suggest some accounts maybe that you can look at that I find inspiring, and maybe you can like look at them and how they do it, just for getting ideas. Okay. On to the management tool. So now I know managing metrics and data can be hard, and understanding if things are working can also be daunting, confusing, frustrating, because it involves posting, replying, measuring again and again, and adjusting. So there's a lot of free and paid tools out there to help you, but knowing what's best for you may take a little bit of like trial runs, right? There's, again, tons of great tools out there. In the meantime, you can use this as a checklist, so that you can save it when you're trying to decide which one is working best. I like to see the tools that give me reports on multiple platforms. I don't just want it for like Instagram or just Pinterest, or, there's some that only work for a few tools like Facebook and Instagram. But look for something that maybe has multiple platforms, because eventually if you do expand, it'll help. And then also tells you like the best time to post. That's always good to know. I don't always post based on that like best time that it suggests, but I think it's good to see like when most people are on, just so that you can also see if that is affecting like your growth, right? And then you can try that out and see for like 90 days. And then if you need to adjust, you can. And then lets you reply to DMs and comments in one place. So if you hate being on Instagram and like afraid of that getting sucked in thing, find a platform which actually has that whole engagement practice built in, meaning that you can reply to stuff on that platform versus being on the Instagram app, so you don't get sucked in. And then a platform that analyzes your competitors. So like if it shows like other people and how they're doing, so you can keep an eye on like, maybe what they're doing and get some inspiration, things like that. That's good. Also can show you graphs versus like just like numbers, which, you can that way easily, like if you end up needing to just visually see things versus just numbers, that's a great feature to have. And then also make sure they're an official partner with the major platform. So on their site, they should say partnered with Meta, partnered with X, partnered with Pinterest or whoever, right? So make sure they're an official partner. So this is who I would recommend. My favorite is Metrical. Big time save 2 years. And hands down, I love it because it has a simple user experience. They have very competitive pricing and very also unique features as well. And they have ways you can reuse your content without having to upload again and put the same caption and all that. They like literally have a button that says reuse content and it creates it for you like automatically and you just hit like schedule it out, right? So it's pretty cool. And their customer support is great. So that would be my pick. But that's basically it for my talk today. These are the three things that once I started doing, I felt like it's become much easier for me to manage social media, manage Instagram especially. And I don't even think about the algorithm or algorithms. There are actually multiple algorithms, by the way, for these platforms, just because I just do my thing. I just stick on and focus on my content and the value that I'm giving my audience and try to keep learning about them and building that relationship. And just keep doing what's working. That's the essence of what I learned over the last few years. If I keep thinking, oh my God, my engagement is down because of algorithm, I will forever be in that cycle of like just hating social media. And I'm not there. Like I'm way past that. So I want you to get there too. I don't want you to hate it. It is very powerful. It is very useful. And I've gotten majority of my clients from Instagram and through my DMs. So you don't need to have the high followers, right? And so I hope this training or talk helped you today. And I don't want to leave you empty-handed. So if you want to, if you found it helpful to hear those strategies and make it less, algorithm centric, and make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more strategies and get more results for your business without burning out. And again, here's a great free resource. I didn't want to leave you empty-handed. You can get a 5-day lesson where I send you through email and I teach you more strategies to convert followers into loyal customers without wasting hours on social media. So if you have any other questions, let me know. These were, Anita, thank you for commenting and like talking about this because it is important too, like, how people are getting that growth right now. And so thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate it. But if there's nothing else, I will see you on the flip side. Connect with me on Instagram, LinkedIn, subscribe now, and I'll see you later.